Fox 5 and Hot 97 present Street Soldiers with Lisa Evers.
I'm so glad you're joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers on youth gun violence. I'm your host, Lisa Evers. While communities across the city cope with reckless and often random shootings, nonprofit groups are doing what they can to prevent the bullets from flying in the first place. As the NYPD uses new focused strategies to take actual shooters off the streets, they've discovered a disturbing new trend. Both shooters and victims are getting younger and younger. It's been just over 3 years since the NYPD initiated next-level precision policing in targeting the shooters who are driving the gun violence that takes and forever changes so many lives. We've had exclusive access to see this approach in action on numerous occasions. Instead of the broad gang sweeps of the past, NYPD detectives from the elite gun violence suppression unit focus on the small percentage of gang members they say are the actual trigger pullers. Under the leadership of Assistant Chief Jason Savino, the unit conducts in-depth investigations of the most violent murders and incidents. Chief Savino says a disturbing reality is emerging. There's now a 1 in 10 chance that a shooting victim will be 17 years or younger, and the shooters themselves are getting younger too.
Now, for the first time ever in 2024, it dipped under 20. In fact, it's 19. So we see the age of the shooting victims going lower. We see the age of the worst shooting perpetrators going lower as well.
A.T. Mitchell Mann was appointed New York City gun czar by Mayor Eric Adams. More than 2 decades ago, he founded the nonprofit Man Up Inc. organization in Brooklyn to deal with gun violence and other social and community issues. Mitchell Mann believes if resources are put where they're most needed, gun violence can be prevented.
If you have a fire that's burning, you got to pour water on it in order to put it out. And in our communities, the fire is the violence, but the water is the resources. And we need to make sure that we're making massive investments.
21-year-old Columbia University student Jason Bostic lost his dad, also known as Jason Bostic, to a violent robbery when he was just 9 years old. Tragically, his sister was also murdered. He tells me a gang in his Bed-Stuy neighborhood was his only way of coping with the flood of emotions and fear that overcame him. But then members of the Man Up organization intervened and helped him get his life back on track before it was too late.
Every day I stepped outside in the project building, stepping over crackheads and dealing with the high violence in my community. I couldn't think or fathom me being right where I'm at right now as a Columbia student.
Community leaders, encouraged by the mayor's support for the crisis management system, are developing new ways to reach those boys on the cusp of serious criminal activity. The In the Field program for high-risk youth uses paintball competitions between opposing crews or gangs to engage males from 12 to 24 in 3 days of mental health workshops. Executive Director Jarrell Sweet tells me he sees the shooters getting younger and their motives are different.
We're seeing a culture shift kind of away from violence that we used to be seeing, perceived mostly through need and desperation. And now there's more of a clout chasing aspect to it. And ITF is kind of designed to shift that culture.
Let's get into this more with our panel. Joining me is Jason Bostic. He's a Columbia University freshman. He grew up in Bed-Stuy. He's also a program coordinator for Justice Ambassadors. Jason, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
We appreciate it. Also with us is Assistant Chief Jason Savino with the NYPD. He has been in charge of many of the operations with the Gun Violence Suppression Division, other units within the NYPD to take guns off the streets, and particularly to do it in a precise way so that people who are not involved are not getting targeted. Chief Savino, great to have you on Street Soldiers.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, and thank you to the team.
Thank you so much. Also with us is A.T. Mitchell Mann. He is the New York City gun czar. He is also the founder and CEO, executive director of the community organization that's been dealing with this problem for many, many years in our communities called Man Up. A.T., thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Likewise, it's a mutual appreciate. It's good to be a part of this panel.
Thank you. A.T., I want to start with you and get kind of a big picture of what you see happening in the city right now, and especially in terms of the youth, because this is something that you've been warning us about for a very long time.
Oh, no question, Lisa. It's been very bothersome. I mean, we've been, as you know, on the front lines, not just in Brooklyn now, throughout the city, working with other organizations like Man Up Inc. that are part of the crisis management system, and working to just get to the young people as best as we can, as fast as we can, before they make a mistake, a bad decision. And it's been a real serious lift. We've been, very diligent. We've been successful in some ways, and then unfortunately there are cases and examples of what we're going to talk about today that we can't take full responsibility for. But it has been a lot of work.
Chief Savino, tell us about this strategy that it's kind of like a turbocharged precision policing, but these investigations where you're breaking up these crews, a lot of them involve crews or what we would call gangs. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, what I like to call next level precision policing, right? With, the days of the roundups, getting individuals incorporated into cases just because are far over. What we do is we work with precision. We look for the multi-shooters, those individuals that have multi-gun arrests and have pulled the trigger more than once. The average age of our subjects that are arrested is actually trending downwards. So if you look at the past 3 years, that average age hovers around 22 and a half to 23. This year, for the very first time, we see that average age go under 20. In fact, it's about 19 years of age. Now you have to consider, and you've gone on these raids with us, you've gone to these takedowns with us, very complex. These investigations take about 2 years to come to fruition. What does that tell you? That tells you if we're arresting you when you're 19 years old, you're committing these crimes when you're 16, 17, 18 years old. And that's a trend that we're seeing, we haven't seen. And once again, we're talking about the worst of the absolute worst. Individuals with 2, 3, 4 gun arrests have been accused of pulling a trigger a multitude of times. These are the targets, these are the individuals who are arrested, and we see that age trending downwards, and it's disturbing.
And Jason Bostic, congratulations on starting your Ivy League education. That is a huge accomplishment. But tell us about the mentality. When you were much younger, you were involved in crews, you said, and they were all around the neighborhood there in Bed-Stuy where you grew up. What is the mentality of a 12 or 13-year-old that looks to pick up a gun or be around people who are carrying guns? Explain that for us.
So first and foremost, when you think of a youth member that's in the community that's carrying guns, you have to start in the household, right? So a lot of these different youth, the 12 to 13-year-olds that they may be finding with guns, they're going through a lot of different environmental factors in their environment. So when people like judges or defense or attorneys look at the document, they don't think about all the trauma that these kids carry, right? Some people be in households with domestic violence. Some people dealing with really harsh poverty. So growing up with all these environmental factors around them, it shaped them to look for something that'll be more like a family, right? So when they join these gangs, they're looking for a substitute family for them so they could feel accepted, so they could have some status, so they could run away from these things that they're dealing with in the household. A lot of people in my community growing up in a Black community is a stigma on therapy, right? So a lot of these youth is using what they're dealing with in the household and they venting to the streets, right? So he's talking about these people are being targets. These people are the people that's bullet magnets. But these people are the people that need the most help. In order for us to help these people, we have to get closer to the problem to find a solution.
Don't go away. We have much more for you coming up. Jason, one of the things that we have seen and are seeing over and over again is this ops culture. Some of it's seems to be based geographically. You're from that development or you're from that block. They're against the other person, as opposed to what people think of from old gang movies where it's people are fighting to control a particular area. Is that what you see going on?
Yes, definitely. When I was growing up, it's a lot of conditioning that happened to the youth that's coming up because of the gang violence that's going on in their community, and because they're from a certain development and people are from other, that they don't even know why the beef originally started. I was actually in this program called Project Restore Bed-Stuy that was funded by Mark J., the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, and came out of Columbia University. And we got two rival gangs. The gang that I was attached to, the Hooli Gang, that was from Roosevelt Projects, and Sumner, the 900 Gang. And it was a 1-year pilot program, and they gave us all holistic services with a case manager, a mentor, internship. and a healing restorative circle to talk about the traumas that we don't talk about living in these conditions. And at the 7th-month mark, we got to sit down, 3 people from Roosevelt and 3 people from Sumner. And as we talked, we realized we didn't know why we was beefing. Well, it started from something, but we realized that it was a lot of things that we was doing because it was conditioning. We was hating each other because of circumstantial things that was happening around us. And from that point now, we got an internship at Columbia where I bring 5 people from Sumner and 5 people from Roosevelt, and we talk about how we could have a safe summer.
AT, what about the mentality? Because a lot of people may be watching this and listening to this and thinking, well, what are they fighting? What do they hate each other so much about? Somebody that looks like them comes from the same neighborhood or just a couple of blocks away. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that what Jason is saying is so on point, and he got a great example in Project Restore, right? A lot of the young people that are growing up in geographic areas, different housing developments, historically, they've had beef, and they really don't, it's not their current beef. It's not like the young people today, it's like they're engaged in it, but it's some things that have been transcended and have been passed on just because a person lives in a certain area or not. It's unfortunate that that type of culture exists where young people are really feuding and looking at each other as ops for something that they really have no connection to. And so that's a lot of the work that we do, working with these orgs, working with these type of young people in those areas and giving them the historical context. A lot of the beef that they may have been holding on has already been, it's been resolved. A lot of people don't know. Some people are even away doing time for that beef, and they've resolved their conflict on the inside of prison. But yet outside in the street, other young people that are naive, they're carrying it on.
Chief Savino, but explain for us what OPS, which is short for opposition, and these horrible shootings like the one on the playground where the mother jumps on the baby carriage, the kids all jump on each other to protect themselves from all these bullets that were flying.
If that doesn't get you angry, I don't know what does. And, those are the individuals, those children jumping on each other, those kids lost a little piece of their innocence. And that doesn't show up in numbers, right? That is not a shooting victim, but that individual is still a victim, but when it comes to ops, right? For years, we had geography. I don't like you because you live here, and we don't like you because you live there. But now, through social media, through these drills, you have the ability to call out your ops real time. And it's far reaching, so what do we see? We see these drills, we see these social media posts, and granted, if it's just a post, if it's just a drill, I encourage it. I think people should have a way to vent, to relate, to talk about social issues. But when it incites violence, and that's what we're seeing, when I see an individual going to a memorial, with candles and kicking them over and taunting a homicide victim, imagine what that family thinks. Imagine what the community surrounding that incident thinks, and now what you're doing is you're actually challenging those ops to strike back, right? And you'll see posts thereafter encouraging them to strike back. And what this does is it creates what we call an on-site atmosphere. What is on-site? It means if you see the ops, you shoot on-site. So what does that make you do? Now you're carrying around a pistol because it's on-site, because it's hot at all times. Just in Brooklyn alone, we had a 9-year-old, an 11-year-old, and an 84-year-old all shot, all unintended victims, and all our investigative theory right now as a result of gang-related shootings. And this has to end.
Jason, tell us, growing up in Bed-Stuy and the time when you were in a crew there or whatever, how traumatizing is it when you see a classmate, or you see somebody you grew up with that's a kid that ends up getting shot or killed?
So growing up in my community was actually really hard. From a young age, my innocence was taken, like Chief Jason Savino said. My father was murdered when I was 9 years old, and he was murdered in a very brutal way. And he actually got the same name as me. Yeah. My father was actually killed in a robbery, tied up in a very brutal way. And so from that age on, it kind of distanced me from everybody and put a bubble around me. And it made me internalize all the feelings I was feeling. So when people think about venting to the streets or venting to things, these little actions do affect people. And also my sister was murdered also. So I feel like
My
all these
God, I'm
things,
so sorry. That's
all these things actually shape the individual to get them where they at. But I think with more preventive measures like Man Up, right? Man Up was the first job I ever had that gave me an incentive that made me feel like I have something to lose, right? So it gave me money and put money in my pockets, and it gave me a substitute family. It allowed me to be able to go somewhere and put a smile on my face and doing activities for my neighborhood. So with these preventative measures, I think that we could actually stop the youth. Even though these are the people doing the shooting, these are also the people with the influence. So when you take them out of the community, these younger kids now feel like they have to live up to them shoes. Instead, if we snatch the people that's likely to do a shooting or to be shot, and we give them holistic services and change their mindset from it is what it is, I ain't gonna get nothing from this, and I'm willing to die for this gang stuff, and we change them, we could change the youth.
That's always been the whole thing. Prevention is always better than, after somebody has been victimized and another person has been killed or shot. But AT, how realistic is that though?
It's very realistic. It's cost effective. It really does the community a lot more good than bad. And I do agree that when a person makes a bad decision and unfortunately someone is shot or killed, that there's consequences to that, right? And so the police have to do their job, right? They're going to come in, they're going to do their job, they're going to do their investigation. So people are going to get arrested and unfortunately, and they're going to be jailed.
Chief Savino, when you give the instructions to some of your teams, you talk about the guns, you talk about the number of arrests, but you also talk about the number of people that are alive because of these active shooters being taken off the streets.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a direct correlation, with these takedowns and violence thereafter, and once again, I have to reiterate, I have to keep saying it. We're talking about individuals that have shot individuals, that have murdered people. We're not talking about individuals that are on the cusp, but those that have shot, killed individuals, shot numerous individuals, feel nothing about carrying a firearm. Those are the individuals that we really focus our cases upon. When you remove those individuals, we see a sharp reduction of violence. You mentioned Bed-Stuy, 900 hoolies. 900 hoolies 3 or 4 years ago, the violence in Bed-Stuy, they were averaging over 100 shootings a year. We did have takedowns on both of those respective crews. On really only the shooters, when we removed them, shootings went down significantly.
Jason Bostic, what one thing do you want to leave our audience with about this that people can go away and think about?
I want to see how we could work together with the NYPD so we could have put preventative measures in our community. People are using their trauma and they're using it without knowing or being able to identify or pinpoint the trauma that they are
Or
dealing
even
with.
know what it really is, what it really is, right? Or
Exactly. With myself, with my father dying when I was really young, I didn't know why I wasn't crying. I didn't know why I got angry. I got angry really fast until I got into PRB and I was able to get a form of therapy and I was able to talk to people and I was able to see that my story is not normal, but I normalized it a lot of times. And people that's dealing with all this crime and dealing with all these deaths around them, they believe that they're desensitized. Guns give youth power. For somebody that come from a community that never may ever see never may have power ever in their life, a gun give them the power over someone else. But when they realize that the judge that give them 50 years really have the power, we're trying to prevent that.
Chief Savino, and final word.
We're talking about children. We're talking about our most valuable resource. We're talking about those that are most vulnerable. And when you talk about children right now, and when I say children, I mean 17 and under. Right now, a child, 17 and under, has a higher percentage of being shot now more than I've ever seen in my career. Has a higher percentage of carrying a gun now more than I've ever seen in my career. It's a disturbing trend, and it has to stop. Actions do have to have consequence. Criminality has to have consequence. But once again, we have to find a way collectively to prevent that next tier, that next shooting group from filling the void.
A.T. Mitchell, final word for our audience.
There is a holistic approach to ending and ridding our communities of gun violence. It's going to require all hands on deck. Nobody's safe. And if we don't try to stop the guns from coming into the community, the drugs come into the community, we have to make sure that these young people, these babies, that's who they are. Their brains are not even developed. Understand the fullness of the consequences if they was to decide to put a gun in their hand.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers on youth gun violence. You can watch it again on our Fox 5 NY YouTube page and on the Fox Local app. Remember, use your mind. It's your best weapon. I'm Lisa Evers. Let's push for peace, love, and justice.